Rodo, it's a dark and stormy night. I know you have no context of what it is when I'm filming this, and you cannot hear the thunder, but trust me, it's a dark and stormy night right now. Here, I'll put in some thunder effect to make you feel, like, included. Yeah, that's spooky. Okay, so, I think I know who the sun god is. I'm not sure, but a random idea popped into my head, and I spent like 5 minutes looking into it, and I think I know who the sun god is. Yep. Now, of course, I'm talking about the sun god. We have to add air quotes whenever referring to the sun god, because now there's two of them. There's, of course, well, technically there's three of them. We have Nika, the actual sun god that may or may not exist. I don't know if Nika at some point is gonna, like, descend from on high and be like, I am displeased with the way the government is doing things. And do that. I don't think that's gonna happen. Then we have Luffy, who's in Gear 5th, and then we have the Sun God, air quotes, that captured all the Straw Hats and put them in the model Lego City. We also have God Usopp, which is a problem because Luffy and Usopp are on the same crew. I think it's about time we have another Usopp versus Luffy fight. God versus God. Really get those bets going. All right, I'm getting off topic already. I'm just gonna say it outright. I think it's Road. Now, a lot of people, and in fact, I would probably say most One Piece fans that aren't, like, talking about it for a living would probably say, who's that? Who's this guy? Did we know this guy? This guy actually show up? I don't recognize this guy. Okay, so Road, or Rodo, it depends on the translations. The katakana for his name is literally just ro and then the long vowel sound do. So it's literally Rodo is his name. So I'll probably switch back and forth. I mean, road is funny because that's like an English word for a street is a road. So Rodo sounds more of like a, Oh, did you hear that one? That one actually might have been picked up on the mic. That one was loud. That one was loud. But anyway, yeah, Rodo. So I'm going to switch back and forth between them, but Rodo sounds more of like a Viking type name for me, right? Okay. Anywho, this guy is a member of the new giant warrior pirates, part of Hiruden's crew. The giant that Luffy fought at Dressrosa. Remember the giant Luffy fought at Dressrosa? Big guy, punched out Mach Vice with Gungear! And then they exchanged sake cups and he became a member of the Grand Fleet. Okay, that guy has a crew, the new giant warrior pirates. It only consists of 5 members. Hiruden, who is the captain. Gerd, who is the doctor. Stanson, who's the shipwright. He was the giant that was imprisoned at the auction house alongside Rayleigh. Then we have Rodo and Goldberg, okay? Rodo and Goldberg have been mentioned before during Big Mom's backstory. They were born the same time as Loki. So it was mentioned like when everybody was getting ready for the Winter Solstice Festival, the whole Semla incident with Big Mom. It was mentioned that, Loki, the Prince of the Giants, has been born in the castle. Oh, such a joyous day. Also, 2 new giants in the village were born, Rodo and Goldberg. And it's like, we're going to celebrate the Winter Festival because of all these great blessings that we've had and God of the Sun and all that jazz, okay? So I don't believe Rodo has ever spoken. Hold on, does he even have a voice actor? He does not. So he has never spoken before. I'm actually even surprised he showed up in the anime. There was one shot in an episode that actually showed all 5 members of the new Giant Warrior Pirates they included in the anime, because he's only actually officially ever shown up in a cover page. When Oda was doing the stories of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, we have little introductory panels for the 5 members, and we see a cover page with Rodo. This is like the only time he's ever appeared in the manga. There might have been maybe some other time, but I really think this is the only one. It's this scene right here in the manga, and then the scene in the anime that they include all 5 of them, and that's kind of it, right? And by the way, Goldberg was the chef. I don't know if I said that. And Rodo is the navigator, okay? Very important. That's why he's holding a scroll in his hand, okay? He's the navigator. So, why is this guy the sun god? Well, for one thing, Oda's already established him, just barely, but he has established him, okay? He has a name, he has a job, and we know he's a member of the crew of, Hiruden and the new Giant Warrior Pirates, okay? So he has his appearance. I guess Oda drew his appearance, okay? So we know a little bit about him, but literally nothing else. Oh, I guess all of the new giant warrior pirates used to be members of Buggy's delivery service. You know, when he was a warlord at Kalibali Island before the Cross Guild was formed, he had basically a bunch of mercenaries working for him, and he would like send out the mercenaries to wherever they needed to be in the world. You know, Buggy's delivery service. Hyrudin, Goldberg, Rodo, and Stanson and Girth were the S-class mercenaries, like the strongest members on Buggy's like list that he could send out to people, right? And then after the events of Dressrosa, after Hyrudin becomes a member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, he leaves, as well as all the other giants. They leave Buggy's delivery and they form their own crew, right? Okay, so that's the idea. So we knew he used to be a mercenary, and now he's just a pirate along with Hyrudin and everybody else, right? Okay, so in the last chapter, we see the sun god approaching the workshop room that the Straw Hats broke into and were causing havoc, you know, beating up all of the animals like the snake and the crow and the army of rats and everything like that were trying to prevent them from escaping. We don't see the giant, the sun god, very clearly in terms of what they look like, because they are dressed in a long cloak and holding a really cool staff and wearing, like, I originally said it was like an antler, like a deer antler head. It looks more like a moose, actually, now that I'm looking at it again. It looks more like a moose skull, maybe an elk or something like that. But, you know, Elbaf, big country with giants and stuff. I'm sure like giant moose and giant elks and stuff are walking around. Anyway, like kind of a deer elk skull, wielding a shield that also has the sun emblazoned on it. The staff is like the staff of the sun, right? And also wearing boots that have heels on them and like fur trim around the boots, okay? So this was the first indication that something was up. This was the first indication, all right? Because I'm thinking about Rode, and I'm just throwing this out there right now. Rode, or Rodo, kind of has the appearance like he could be a villain, right? I mean, the hair, and he has like the scarf. Maybe it's just a leftover thing from Katakuri. I don't know. But if you were going to say this guy was going to be a villain, yeah, I could see that. I could see that, sure. Yeah, why not, right? Or, at the very least, maybe a low-tier villain at the beginning of the arc. I don't think this sun god that the Straw Hats are running into, regardless of who it is, I don't think this person's going to be the overarching villain throughout the entire arc of Elbaf, okay? This might be just like an introductory villain. This is the Hold'em of Elbaf. You know, Hold'em, the lion smile user way back in the beginning of Wano. That's like this guy, okay? So, but it could be Rodo, all right? I was like, all right, he wears very similar shoes. And seriously, how often do you look at a man's shoes? Not very often. Andy Dufresne was able to break out of a prison because no one paid attention to his shoes. One guard paid attention to his shoes. His whole escape plan was shot in the foot right there, quite literally. But nobody pays attention to shoes. There was a close-up. Oda showed us a scene of the shoes. He wanted us to know the shoes. I'm on to you, Oda. Don't worry, I got it. So you see the shoes, you see the trim. Here's Rodo, shoes and the trim. Now, granted, Girth also, I think, wears a similar kind of boot, who's the doctor. She was like Big Mom's friend way back in the flashback, right? Now, we don't see the heels, but also this is like her facing forward. I'm assuming her boots have heels. I'm assuming they would. You know, and in fact, a lot of people's like, hey, we don't know the gender of the giant, the sun god that is, you know, keeping the Straw Hats trapped in that city. I know you see heels, you immediately think indicative of a woman, but perhaps in this case, with the style of Elbaf, you know, could be men and women both wear, you know, heeled boots and stuff. And in case we know that, because Rodo right here is wearing heeled boots. So there you go. Okay, next thing, at the very end of the chapter, we see a close-up of the eye of this sun god giant, okay? Now, we don't get to see a lot of their face because they're wearing the mask, but it zooms in through the eye hole of the mask, and we see the eye of the individual. Now, this is something maybe I'm just looking too far into this, but number one, it's the left eye of the giant. Look at Rodo again. His hair covers his right eye, but his left eye, that's the one he keeps uncovered. Also, it's really hard to see because this is just a full body view of Rodo and we don't see like his eye close up. But, you know, in this shot that we see of Rodo in the cover page, his eyes are kind of like this. You know, he's not like bug-eyed or anything. He's like, no, he's just... And it kind of matches up with the eye that we see. That one, okay, I'll give it to you. That one's not like, teching, I don't know, that's kind of reaching. Okay, fair. But I just wanted to bring it up. I'm just, maybe it could be, it could be, whatever. Going by the overall build of the individual, this sun god seems to be more sleek, like when they have the cloak on, and so Rodo seems a little bit bulkier, but keep in mind that is because he is wearing giant, like, football pads, giant football shoulder pads or whatever, like he's a Dragon Ball Z character or some shit like that, right? I'm assuming when he's dressing up in his hobby to be the sun god and work on his model city, he's probably not going to be wearing his armor, okay? He's probably going to be wearing his leisurely clothing. So taking off the giant football pad, like shirking that off, taking off his belt, all of his armor, and he's like, ooh, I'm going to dress like the sun god. He puts on the cloak, he puts on the deer elk skull helmet mask or whatever. He's like, oh, he picks up his staff. Oh, man, I'm going to have so much fun messing with the humans in my model city today, right? Okay. Now, I brought this up on a stream, and, the live reaction of the audience was there and everything like that, and somebody brought up, it's just like, hey, well, if it is Rodo, he's like a mass murderer, because, like, there's skulls and bones all over this castle. Like, he's been throwing humans in. Whoever the sun god is has been chucking humans in this model city, and they've been being eaten alive by the cat and by the porcupine, or not the porcupine, the hedgehog. Maybe there is a porcupine too. The rabbit god has probably stomped on a few people, right? Like, people have died here. You understand that, right? Yeah. So here's the thing, though. It could still be Rodo because we know nothing about this man's personality. His personality, as we know it, is he's a navigator. That's not much of a personality. Nami's a navigator. There's a little bit more to her personality than just she knows how to read maps. Although, by the way, other thing, if you're going to be somebody that's going to build a model city, that's going to be in a large room, and you're going to have a workshop, and you're going to lay the whole city out based off of Elbaf, because that's what the basis is. There's a castle, which is maybe the castle where, like, Odin and Loki live, and Big Stein Castle in the model is what the sun god made out of it. Yggdrasil is there, which is a fake version of Yggdrasil. So they're clearly, whoever the sun god is building this city based off of Elbaf. Well, if you're a navigator and you know all about maps and you know all about geography, you would be pretty well suited to build a model of the island that you have all the maps from. Saying that as well. But, yeah, so, and the thing is, like, the rest of the new giant warrior pirates, like Hyrudin and Girth and Goldberg, they might not be aware of this at all. This might not even be registering on their radar, right? Like, Rodo is a pirate that's been with them, and actually, I don't really know if they have been the new giant warrior pirates while they were on Buggy's crew, or if they were just mercenaries that individually joined up. Maybe some of them, like Hyrudin, already knew about Gerd because they met. We see them interacting during Big Mom's flashback, okay? I'm assuming Rode and Goldberg, they grew up with Hyrudin and Gerd, so they would know each other as well. And Stanson also was there. He grew up with him as well. So maybe they were all part of the same crew on Buggy's crew, and then they split off and just did their own thing. Right? Kind of like a reverse of what happened with Ace and the Spade Pirates, right? Instead of, being their own separate crew and joining up with Whitebeard, the new Giant Warrior Pirates were originally a member of Buggy's crew, and then they split off to do their own thing, right? At any rate, Rodo might be oh, I'm a navigator, I work for the new Giant Warrior Pirates, yada, yada, yada. But in his free time, as part of his hobby, he kidnaps humans and puts them in his little city to be devoured by the cat or whatever. Now, this could come from actual malevolence, like he actually gets a sick thrill out of this, like, whoa, like him pretending he's the sun god or some shit like that. Or it could come from just like, he's a giant, so he doesn't view human lives as, like, the same way as giant lives. He's just like, oh, these are just, insects to me, whatever. I could do whatever I want with them, It's just, I'm just going to put them in here and have them run around, and it's just like a complete disconnect of empathy, and he just doesn't register with them because they're not the same as him, right? And those are some messages I could definitely see Oda tackling in this story. I mean, most of the giants we've seen so far interact very equally with humans, the way that Dorian Dory and Broggy reacted to Luffy and everybody when they first met them on Little Garden. They did not look at them as like, they were less than they are. They made jokes about the fact that they're small or whatever, but that's beyond that. They're not just like, oh, you're a human, you're inferior to us, the giants, like nothing like that. No, in fact, Dory and Broggy were quite impressed of Luffy's fighting power. Okay, that's how you win over the favor of Dory and Broggy. Not all giants could be like that, though. There could be some giants that genuinely feel superior just because we're bigger than humans. We should be the ones calling the shots. That was basically Arlong's motive the entire time. Arlong's motive was, I'm a fishman. Fishmen and merfolk are 10 physically times stronger than humans. Therefore, we're the ones that should be ruling the world, not them. And that's where a lot of that shit came from, right? So, yeah, there could be giants like that as well. And Rodo could be one of them, right? And so, unbeknownst to the rest of the new Giant Warrior Pirates, he has this little hobby room, this little workshop that he dresses up in and, throws humans in there and everything like that. And the ultimate end of this is this giant should pose no threat to the Straw Hats. Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, they should all be able to take this guy down, no problem. At absolute worst, Luffy can go into Gear 5th, make himself huge, and just punch him in the face really hard. That should be enough to knock this guy out. I don't think this guy is like some crazy powerful, like actual sun god deity, or he has some ridiculously OP devil fruit ability. He might not have one. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But even if he has a devil fruit power, even if he knows hockey, he's not on like Kaido level or something. Like, I don't think anybody's really saying that. A lot of people are still saying it's Loki. I don't think it's Loki. I don't think Oda's going to pull the Loki card just yet. We are going to get there. We're going to get to Loki. Don't worry about it. I just don't think it's going to start off like that, okay? Or maybe rather it's a red herring because Loki is the trickster god, so everybody might suspect that this is Loki because of that reason, right? But no, I think it's Rodo. I think, hey, Oda's like, hey, I introduced this character way back in, like, I think it was chapter 898 where you see him on the cover page. Hey, I drew this character already. I mentioned him in the Elbaf flashback with Big Mom. We don't know anything about him, but he's there. I gave a design for him, so maybe that was the guy the whole time. Stick a fork in that theory, it's done. But that's an idea. That's certainly an idea. I know that there's the other idea. I know Morge was bringing up the God's Night member that had the deer skull and everything. It's like, oh, that's the same person. Dude, we could go ahead with that one as well. I don't think that's the case, but we could certainly explore that. That's fine with that, and that's the great thing about One Piece. There's a new mysterious character. There's something going on, and it's just like, ooh, it could be this way or this way or this way. There's like a bunch of different branching theories that it could be. And I'm going with this one. I'm going with the Rodo gambit. We'll see what happens, right? And then perhaps Luffy beats the crap out of Rodo and he's on the ground and the skull cracks and falls off and he's there just like, oh. And then Gerd and Hiruden walk in and they see everything and maybe they did know about it. Maybe Hiruden is like, oh, Rodo, we talked about this. Are you still putting people in your Lego cities? Rodo, come on. I thought we moved past this. And Rodo's there on the ground like, I'm sorry. I like to put people in my town and have run around with the cats or whatever. I like to pretend to be the sun god. Maybe this is a thing. Maybe this is a thing in the land of Elbaf. I don't know. There's also the theory I threw out in the review of it being like an exiled giant. Maybe a giant that did attempt to be the sun god at one point and was kicked out for being a heretic or some shit. I don't know. Yeah, that's the idea. That's an idea. Let me know how you feel about it down below. It does seem to be, in my opinion, as I fix my Lego dagger, it seems to be in the wheelhouse of Oda to attempt something like this, right? And by the way, like I said, this is not going to be like, oh, Rodo's the villain or anything like that. But we could, we can explore the idea that, like, there was a member of Hiruden's crew that was doing some shit that was sadistic behind the scenes, and Hiruden has to, like, punish him and things like that. And then we can get to Elbaf proper, and maybe, maybe it might be played off, and it would be really difficult to play it off like this because there are dead people in the city, unless you want to say something like Rodo could actually have the joke of like, oh, those bones weren't real. Those were just fake. Those were plastic bones I made and threw in there for realism. Like, I actually haven't killed anyone. Still, even if that's the case, which would be a little ridiculous, but even if that was the case, you're still kidnapping people and throwing them in a city to be chased around by giant animals. And even if everybody hasn't died, which I see is kind of dubious because there's bones there, but even though they do explain that away, he's still guilty of some pretty egregious crimes here. And then we can move on to proper Elbaf, and then we can find out what really is going on here, and maybe the serious threat that looms over the country or something. Maybe Rodo is just the introductory to it. Like, hey, there's certain giants that look at humans like action figures and playthings and nothing more. Rodo is one of them. He's not that powerful or that influential. But what happens if there's a giant that is super powerful and is influential and also has that viewpoint towards humans? He doesn't have a Lego city, but he also views them as, like, inferior. That could be the gateway into the actual plot line of Elbaf. See where we're going with this. I almost said Wano again. I don't know why. Wano was so long ago. I don't know why I keep confusing Elbaf from Wano. Anyway, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Teching, signing out.